Again, thank you very much for coming in. I'll just jump right in with the first question. I was
Okay.
hoping you could tell us a little bit about when and how you joined up with the military.
I was actually, a week or so before I got inducted, we went to Albany, a buddy of mine. We were gonna join the Navy. And he got accepted, I got failed because they say I had flat feet. So while I was out there, I called home. My mother said, "You better come home here. That's your induction papers." And that was the day before my 19th birthday, January 25th, 1943. So I come home and actually I was inducted. I reported to the draft board, and they gave me all the information I needed. And then I left February 1st of that same year. And we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for induction. Then from there we went to Miami Beach for basic training. After basic training, orders come in, we were shipped to Gulfport, Mississippi for aircraft mechanic school. We were there for, I think, 18 weeks. Went through all the phases of aircraft. I think there's 12 different phases of the aircraft, and went through them all. And then from there, after completing that, I think it was 18 weeks. I don't know if I got a little leave at that time. And then they shipped me to Chinook Field in Illinois to go to aircraft instrument school. We were there 8 weeks, approximately. You know, there's time in between there before we started and everything else. But the course was actually 8 weeks. So from there, after we graduated from aircraft instrument school, they promoted us to Corporal, which is, at that time, was a non-commissioned officer. Then they sent us to Fresno, California, which was an overseas replacement center. Well, we hung around there till we got our orders. And our orders came through and they shipped us to Yuma, Arizona. Yuma. It was an Air Force base. They needed 2 instrument technicians, which what one was called, to complete the squadron. They called it the 514 Fighter Squadron. And the squadron was consist of every phase of the aircraft had a trailer as a shop. We worked out of that trailer to do all the repairs and everything. So that completed the squadron, and while we were waiting for orders to be shipped overseas, naturally we started working on aircraft. And at that time, they were training gunners for the gunners would shoot out of B-17s. They had, I think, about 6 different positions. But the main thing was to keep the airplanes flying so they could teach these fellas all the phases of gunnery. And after that, took quite a while, and then they started training bombardiers, from gunnery to bombardiers. And so before you know it, orders come through, I know, from the big chief of the Air Force, I guess, that we were doing such a good job. They just said, you guys gonna be permanent party here to take care of, because we were doing such a good job to take care of all our flying, to keep the airplanes flying, to teach these gunners and bombardiers. So we were there a little over 2 years, till I got discharged. That was 2 years, yeah, approximately 2 years. Between training and everything, by the end of 2 years. Then from there we went to a discharge center. I think I was shipped back to Chinook Field. I made a discharge center out of that. And from there to camp to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where I got discharged from there. And that was approximately 3 years and 17 days total.
Okay, I don't mean to jump back, but could you go over maybe a little bit about exactly what you went through for training and what exactly you were trained to do?
Well, as far as the aircraft mechanics, we started working on every phase of the aircraft. In fact, it was these are all the phases we went through of the aircraft. Those are my marks. And every phase was allowed a certain amount of time, and going through all of them. And then I guess to pick us to go to aircraft instrument, I guess they felt we were well qualified to go into aircraft instrument repair, and then they shipped it to Chinook Field, Illinois. And it was very interesting here, just the wiring on an airplane, and miles of wiring. And they had a color code for wiring. I said, how the heck am I ever going to remember all this, the color code for wiring? So they had a saying that usually went like this: bad boys ride our young girls, but violet gives willingly. It's all the colors: black, brown, red, yellow, green, blue, violet, green. That's all. And all your wires are marked that way. If it goes to a generator, if it goes to a pressure instrument or RPM gauge or whatever, the wiring is all, that way you know what the heck you're doing, That way if you got a broken wire or something, because that instrument's not working, they used to go right on the plane to troubleshoot the whole instrument panel to find out what was working, what wasn't working, to okay it so they could go on flight, when everything was done okay. So that went through all the other phases as far as props, tires, fuselage, wings, all your controls on your flaps and your rudder and all that stuff. So we went through every phase. So actually we had a cross-section of every part of the airplane that worked, So then when we specialized, we went into aircraft instrument, that was another story. But we definitely worked on instruments alone. And there's different phases of instruments. There's pressure, like air pressure, pitot tubes for airspeed. If your flaps are up, your flaps are down, your rudder was left or right. Gas gauges, power gauges, oil pressure gauges. And in itself, there's quite a few different instruments, but we usually worked on all of them. Whatever they say was bad, they'd send them into the shop and we'd repair them and get it back to the aircraft. So that's the extent of the work on most of that, and it was just repetitious, It's what you did for those 2 years that we were out there. And it was really interesting, because it's so much different from civilian life, But all in all, in fact, today's the anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944, when we had the invasion of Normandy, which really, that's when they really pushed the heck out of Hitler's outfit, which really ended the war as far as, there's articles in this morning's press about it. And, of course, we knew it was D-Day, but we just kept on working, because, you know, aircraft had to be maintained regardless of what was happening, because we didn't know what was gonna end the war at that time. But all in all, like I say, it was very interesting to get in all this stuff, something that you would never do in civilian life, unless, you know, you wanted to work on aircraft or you were interested in flying and stuff like that. So that was the story as far as our working on aircraft and aircraft instruments. And meanwhile, while you're doing all this, next you know, you'd work 8-hour day or 10 hours, depending on what you had to do. And then you had your time off, and weekend we get a 3-day pass or weekend pass to go off base and everything else. But I mean, it was just general living, you know. But still, the main thing was focused on everything we had to do as far as the job was concerned.
Okay, you mentioned that you worked during the time of like D-Day and all that was going on. Could you tell us a little bit about how, like, what your feelings were about the war and what was going on? How you personally felt?
Well, we know that it was very important, and when they had come up with this D-Day, we know it was quite a big operation. And I guess we lost quite a few people, you know, who got killed on the beaches of Normandy and going into France and everything else. And naturally we felt sorry for these fellas that were out there, and a lot of them lost their lives, but and we just plugged away harder to help train these troops, to give them support in the air where these guys were on the ground, you know, off the amphibious subs and everything else. But that's really what all it boiled down to. And like I say, regardless of what they considered, well, that wasn't a holiday, but they celebrated, not really celebrated, but it is a special day that happened which was the beginning of the Germans surrendering to us, you know, which make us happy that we finally get to the point where it might end. But we were there to do a job, and we did it. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Somebody had to do it, and we had to do it to support the guys that did go overseas. We were fortunate in a way that we didn't go overseas. In fact, a lot of us volunteered to go overseas. They said, no, you're doing a good job here, we need you here, and you're gonna, you know, you're just stop right here. So it's all we could do. But had to keep those planes flying so the mission would be complete, and support all the ground troops that were going into actual fighting, you know, movies like that. But that's the story as far as that part goes.
If it's possible, I don't know if you remember exactly, could you run through just like once you were stationed in Yuma, is it?
Yuma Army Air Force Base.
Could you run through like a typical day, what you did for the duration of like a normal work day?
Well, we'd get up, you know, a lot of that, you'd get up to do your regular work day, but at a different time you had your physical training exercises as far as keeping you built up and everything else. That was besides your 8-hour work. Now, I was stationed at Yuma. We were right in a controlled lab. And when you're working on instruments, everything's heat and humidity controlled, because sweat and anything like that, foreign, they got into instrument parts, would affect the operation of the instrument. So it's really controlled, dust controlled and everything else. And we did work with a bunch of civilians that worked with us in conjunction with the military. Well, actually it was more military working, and there was always a few civilians. And depending what come up, what kind of instrument had to be worked on or whatever, that's what, you know, whatever the workload was, that's what we worked on. whatever they seemed more important to repair and what was needed with the top priority of particular instruments. And that was our day, really. It actually, like you're working as a regular civilian job, 8 hours a day, you know. Plus, after that, you have your military duties, training, KP, guard duty, and everything like that. You work that in conjunction with what your regular work was. So it wasn't just that you worked 8 hours in the shop, and then after that you were free. But, you know, you went through the whole military situation.
Could you just tell me, you said KP, I don't know what that is.
Oh, kitchen police.
Oh.
We'd catch that. We all frowned on that. Nobody liked that. Because they'd take you off from work for one. Say if you catch a day of KP, kitchen police, you helped in the kitchen, you either peeled potatoes, or you helped the cooks, or you made salads, or whatever the cooks in charge wanted you to do.
Right.
Or you're on a China clipper, they call the dishwasher the China clipper, where you scrape off all the mess kits or the trays that we ate on. So they go through the big commercial type dishwashers, they clean up that. That was hard work too. Or you got in the corner and peeled potatoes all day, or cut them, or slice them, or dice them, whatever, you know, whatever they called them. But that was really fun in a way, but it was a long day, and we used to frown on it, you know, because you'd get there probably 6 o'clock in the morning, and you were here probably till way after supper, after the last meal, they'd have to clean up the whole mess hall. But that was interesting too. And then as you'd have guard duty once in a while, you'd have guard duty around a vehicle compound. So you just patrol certain areas so nobody's getting in and out to fool around with the equipment or stealing equipment or one thing or another. And then, you know, they have different patrols for different areas, like when we were in Miami, as part of the training, we used to walk up and down the seashore. You know, you'd probably walk half a mile, you're in charge of that area, and then see another guy, he's got the next area, and, you know, more or less just the idea of patrolling the area, and nothing was coming in from the sea or whatever, and to keep it secure, that nothing came in that wasn't supposed to come in.
Right.
So that was another part of the training. But like I say, I felt I was in the Army, I was in the Air Force 3 years, a little over 3 years, on school time and everything else. It was very interesting. It taught me a lot in life, how to get along with a lot of people you meet from all walks of life, in all parts of the country. It was very interesting to meet a lot of very nice people and a lot of very nice situations that you encounter while you're in service.
Is there anyone, like, person or people in particular that stick out in your memory that had a big impact on you, or that you were friends with while you were in training, or in Yuma or anything?
I made so many friends. My wife couldn't get over it. When we started looking, when this came about and I started taking everything off of my service, she says, "How come you got all these pictures?" I said, "Well, these are all friends of mine in the general life of the 3 years that I met while I was in training and while I was working and everything else." And she couldn't believe the magnitude of the amount of friends that I really met. You know? And then the people from Rome that I went to school with, every time somebody got inducted or enlisted in the Air Force, enlisted in the Army or whatever, they'd actually have their pictures in the paper. My mom would send me all the pictures of all my friends that got in the service. And I ended up with almost 200 pictures of different people I knew. They got in different branches of the service. And the same thing when somebody I knew got killed in action or wounded in action and everything else. she'd keep me up with all the information, whatever come out in our local paper, she'd send to me. So I amassed quite a few pictures, you know, and it was very interesting to see how many and who went here and who went there, and then I'd ask for addresses and we'd write back and forth to each other, kind of what they're doing, what their job entailed and everything else like that.
Likewise, are there any specific events that you think changed your attitude or your life for the better or worse? Any specific things that happened to you that you
Well,
remember?
just the general idea that the people you met, the work you did, the places you've seen that you probably never would have before, if you're still home, you know, if you weren't inducted into service. I mean, so much, because you learn so much of life, meeting different people in different walks of life that normally you wouldn't have met, you know?
Yeah.
It was quite interesting. And I don't think there's any one particular person that made a great impact on my life outside of more in generalities throughout the 3 years that I come across with these different people to see how people could really get along you never knew, you would never thought you would meet in regular life, you know. And it was very, very interesting. Met people from all over the country.
Okay. How did your time in the service, once you went through everything you went through, did that affect how you thought about the war? Were you in favor of it, or did your
Well,
time...
I felt it was something that had to be done. Somebody had to do it, you know. We knew we were there for a purpose. I mean, especially, you know, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, of course, we were all, that was what, 16, 17 when that happened, and you couldn't go in the service. But the group, the biggest group from Rome, when I became 18 and 19, those were because before they wouldn't induct anybody unless they were at least 21 years old. So then they lowered the age limit. So they started inducting anybody from 18 years old and up. And we were the first group that left Rome of 18, 19-year-olds, and I think there were about 200 or 300 people off from Rome in that age category. And like I said, that was the first group, that was the first time they lowered the age requirements. Then a lot of kids lied their age. Some got away with it, got in when they were 16, 17, depending on their structure, how they, you know, how they looked. They got away with joining the Army or the Air Force or the Navy, even though they weren't 18, you know. Because of their physical looks, they looked older, and they accept them as long as they pass the physical.
Do you have any, if you don't have any final comments or stories to share, but anything else you'd like to say?
Well, really, like I said before, as far as meeting different people, when I was stationed in Yuma, we'd get the 3-day passes. I'd go, went to LA, and then we'd go to Hollywood, and then we met different people. I used to go to Hollywood Canteen, and in fact, I danced with Diana Durbin. I don't know if you know her, she was an actress. I got a postcard with her autograph on it, and we met quite a few interesting people in that line. And then we have a lot of these USO shows. Bob Hope has come up, Harry James, I can't even remember all of them. But these are all people I would have never met in regular life, you know, unless seen them on, you know, later on in movies and on TV. But these, you see these people in actual life performing in front of you, you know, which is very interesting. But in general, the whole idea of the 3 years, I think it was a phase in my life that I wouldn't miss for all the money in the world, because it's a very interesting, it's a very educational in all phases of my life. And we met a lot of people, and a lot of them we were still friends, but we were still here, you know. And everything worked out, you know, really good. It was a good period of time. You didn't want to be there, but we were there, and we made the best of it.
Okay, do you want to go over some of the stuff you brought? So
Yeah.
we can get that on tape. Alright.
I'm going to see my, discharge paper. Here's my certificate for aircraft mechanic. I don't have one for the instrument. I misplaced that. This is my auto discharge papers. The separation qualifications. This, I come across this was, I even forgot about it. This is my last will and testament. Usually when you went in, you made one of these out for your folks. Like, the envelope and everything except for mine. And you know, nice, because if anything happened,
Yeah.
we had that to, man, I can't even open that. And then here's another interesting thing. I was in the Second War, thank you. And this is, if you want to read that, this is for all us young 18-year-olds that went in the service that were drafted from the Second War, from where I lived at the time. Then on one of my weekend passes, this was October 27th, Illinois, Michigan game at the Rose Bowl in Hollywood, California. A long time ago.
Yeah.
And this, come across this, these three guys, you know, I'm in there. We were inducted together. We stood together, well, Sprague and I stood together till we got separated. He went to one induction center, I went to another, not induction center, discharge center to get phased out of the service. He left us probably, after school, he went someplace else, and him and I went to the Chinook Field, to Yuma. We were together most of the time, right until the last year, at least till, you know. See, three Romans returned to Chinook Field. And then, this is, I don't know, Mom sent this to me. Of the Center Japanese surrenders. That was a room cell extra at that time. This was our newspaper on base, you know, that Dad gave surrendered, which we were very, very happy to hear about. But like I say, these things are, you know, 50, 60 years old. Well, Pearl Harbor was actually real old.
Yeah.
And, well, I came home on furlough. My buddy was getting married, so I stood up for a wedding. There's a few other pictures of our crew together. Different friends. That's why I say, you know, you amass all this stuff, and you go back and look at all this stuff, and it's bringing back a lot of memories, things that you did while you were in service. The picture don't mean that much to you, but to me it does.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It was great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Well, like I say, it was my pleasure, and, like I say, it was very, very interesting, the whole situation. Being in service, and, it's something that we never would have done if we hadn't gone to service, you know?
Right.
It was really very educational as far as I'm concerned. Met a lot of people, I learned a lot of things, went to different areas that I thought I never would have visited, you know, and everything like that. So all in all, it was a good 3 years, and it was very informative. Enjoyable. Okay.
Thank you. Quick, we're here at Rome Free Academy today. Today is June 6th, 2001. We will be interviewing Mr. Sandro Nasci, who was a member of the Air Force during World War II.